We're recording.
Awesome. Great. And I'll record on my phone just in case, because sometimes I don't trust technology. Um,
Great. Great.
cool. So yeah, I loved what you said in the panel, just kind of about how making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich led to you discovering UX. I thought that was really cool. So yeah, obviously I heard kind of the background, but if you want to just summarize again how you found UX and what you were doing when you found UX.
I I love that that stuck with you. I always think that's so stupid. Stop telling that story. But it was true. There's a little fat kid inside of me, and he likes to eat. And so I happen to be on a performance improvement plan, which, if you're not familiar with what that is a friendly 60-day notice to vacate the premises.
Okay.
Because if even if you succeed, they now have something that they could just get you out with. And
Mhm.
I had moved up a little too fast. You know, when you move up fast in life, you tend to take things for granted. So I went from server in a restaurant to barista in this software company,
Mhm.
being promoted to GM at another Starbucks. And then when they saw that I left, they thought I got fired, so they hired me back on as an account manager.
Okay.
I didn't have any experience as account manager. I don't like being on phones. That's not my thing. But I
Mhm.
could I could do it. I could do the job. I just wasn't happy. I wasn't fulfilled.
Sure.
So there was a lot of friction with my team because they passed up somebody with 10 years experience. And so it was a very rough 9 months. It was like giving birth. And I feel like at the end of it all, it was the uh, the end result was to find out about UX. So in
Mhm.
that moment where I realized that there's no way I'm going to survive this, I went to make that peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Mhm.
And on my way down, I see this guy that I used to see at the coffee bar all the time. He's like, "Hey, where you been at? I haven't seen you." And I told him I got hired on, what I was doing. He's like, "Yeah, I heard about that."
Mhm.
And then he says, "How would you like to make $100,000 a year?" I'm good. Thank you. And I went to continue making my sandwich, and I turned around after about 30 seconds and he's still standing there. And I was like, "Oh, you're serious? Okay. Well, what kind of multi-level marketing do you have for me right now?" And he's like, "What? No, no, it's UX design." It's like, "Okay, what's that?" He hands me his card and he's like, go check it out. So I do my research later that day.
Mhm.
And I'm looking and I'm like, I don't understand. What is this? This doesn't make any sense. Like, this is just people using common sense. You mean you can be paid for that? So all the stuff I did research on, I was like, this is weird. Why are people getting paid for this? How is this a profession? Like, I thought you had to suffer through your job. I didn't know you can enjoy it. And he started the school 2 weeks later. It was like the end of September, beginning of October.
Of 2018?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And so I started school, finished in April, and I didn't know to start meddling in the community until then. So April 11th, I graduated, went to the very first meetup the next day, started meeting people in the community, and I was at meetups all the time. I was all over LinkedIn. I was reaching out to anyone I could with questions and, hey, can we get on a call? Can I ask you about, my portfolio? What would you put in a portfolio? Like, I was
Mhm.
just all over the place trying to find everything I could out about it. And it was it was discouraging when you'd get the recruiters that would rush you to get everything to them,
Mhm. Sure.
and they'd ghost you. And I vented about that on LinkedIn, and that post went viral in a matter of 4 days, like 28,000 views, somewhere around there. And
Hey.
all the recruiters were reaching out to me, apologizing, people I'd never worked with before. And I was like, oh, okay. I guess everyone else feels this way too. And that's when I got to work with Aquient and
Mhm.
Vitamin T. They're a recruiting company, and the way they went about this was really different. They paired you with someone that had 15 years experience in the field. That person wrote something up on you because they got to know you a little deeper
Mhm.
based on someone that's been in the field, not just a recruiter that recruits for the field.
Okay.
And that's how I landed the job at the Container Store. Was It was the perfect match for what they were looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was the coolest thing ever because of the experience that I had trying to get in before. You know, trying to get your first UX job is always the hardest.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, best peanut butter and jelly sandwich I ever had.
That's amazing. Yeah, and I can honestly I can envision, like, I just have a vision in my head of like kind of where you worked in the setup, because I had an internship at a post-production company when I studied abroad in Sydney, Australia.
Yeah.
And part of my job was to go get coffee and tea from the coffee shop that was in that business. So for some reason when you told that story, I was just envisioning myself like going to that coffee place. And then also part of my job, I baked bread every single evening because they had a
Wow.
bread machine. Yeah, so when you said PB&J, I was like, yep, we also had the PB&J. So definitely, that's kind of why it stuck in my head, but I think it's really cool. So you had mentioned, I think, did you say you worked at IHOP up until the day that you got your job? Okay.
Yes.
So I'm just
So,
curious, like, obviously the service industry, you learn so many valuable skills that can transfer over just working with people. And I think everyone should have a service industry job at some point just to learn those skills. But I'm kind of wondering, like, what specific skills do you think helped you transition into UX, and what skills do you think that you use currently that you kind of developed while in the service industry?
ooh, that's a good one. I think that I agree with you on this. A lot of people should have at least some sort of service industry, customer facing, high stress job
Mm-hmm.
to start their career off. I would say that the ability to walk up to a complete stranger or a table full of complete strangers and be able to analyze and size up that table
Mm-hmm.
with how I'm going to react on the spot to make my tip the biggest it could be is a skill that could be applied anywhere. You step into a room full of stakeholders and you have to size that room up in a matter of minutes, feel out the energy, and understand how you're going to sell what you're going to sell, whether it be yourself, your product, food, dessert.
Yeah.
You have to be able to think on your feet, literally.
Mm-hmm.
That's one skill that is huge, communication, coming through those barriers of fear, because there's a lot of fear associated with presenting. And
Mm-hmm.
when you're presenting your research findings or your design decisions, presentation is okay. So public speaking is 85% of people say that their greatest fear is public speaking.
Look
The
at
other
that.
15% are lying.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So uh, I think that that helped me break through barriers. That and music, I just get up on stage and speak. And
Mm-hmm.
when you think about it, anywhere you go, no matter the size of the crowd, you're just walking up to one huge table or small table, and
Mm-hmm.
you're assessing how you're going to entertain this table for the next 15 minutes to an hour.
Yeah.
Um, the fast pace, switching up 0 to 100, back to zero,
Mm-hmm.
that's been helpful because at first it was just, okay, I'm going way too fast in corporate. You can't go this fast. But when you slow down, it's more of, okay, so things are changing. We got to pivot. We got to go this way, speed it up, get it done.
Mm-hmm.
That works for that. But when it comes time to slowing down and switching, that's like that slow time when it's time to clean up your tables and prep for the next big one.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
That's one other skill. Gosh, that's really funny you asked that. Nobody's ever really asked me that to make me think about it. But I
Really?
thought about writing a book about it because I'm writing a book. That's one of the sections I have to get to is how these skills are used.
Yeah.
Um, the ability to multitask.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're one of those servers in the service industry that let the table run you, like every time you get to the table, they need something else, and you just keep running back and forth that for that one table, and this table suffers. Multitasking with projects is the same thing. I
Mm-hmm.
can't just focus all on this project or table and let this one sink. So you got to kind
Yeah.
of be able to move around and balance it all. So being able to do that on your feet, it's a lot easier to do it in an office. It almost feels like serving was was sandpaper, and UX is the polish.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. Yeah, I think it's important because I'm pretty new to UX and just comparing. It's easy to kind of go into a new job and be like, well, I don't know how to do this. But I think it's important to look back at the skills that you do have and see like how they correlate. And even if you're a teacher, like teaching is huge in UX and just observing like your students or observing your clients and everything. Yeah, I think that's really interesting. Yeah, I relate to a lot of that like food industry stuff as well.
I like that you said that. You said, I don't know what I'm doing. And I think that's another skill is when you first start your server job, you don't know what you're doing. But the
Absolutely not.
best way to learn is to be thrown out there and in the middle of a rush and learn as you
100%.
go, right?
Yes. Yes, that's very true. And I think even during COVID, because I guess did you get your job during COVID or was it like what was the timeline of it? I'm just curious because I know that the food industry, I came back, I was quarantined for 2 weeks, and then I came into just a mess with my small business trying to figure out their online ordering system. And so I've definitely learned a lot during that time. But I'm just curious, what was like the timeline of getting your job during all of COVID?
So do you remember when they first announced that they were going to start doing shutdowns?
Yeah, it was like
Two
March
weeks.
something, early March, second week of March.
So 2 weeks leading up to when I started, we started taking everything off the table at IHOP and things were weird. There was no real guideline of what was to be done. So
Mhm.
everyone was weird.
Yeah.
It started getting really stressful and I thought, I start March 16th. It's only temporary. You can do this. It
Yes.
was getting I cannot imagine being out there right now for the last year,
Mm-mm.
9 months,
It's a
and
long
having
time.
to do this consistently and deal with people that are in fear and
Hmm.
not having the business you used to and having to do extra steps for something that, you know, it's it's stressful. So
Hmm.
I stopped, my last day was March 15th. They even asked me if I'd still work weekends. And I told them yes at first. And then I thought about it. I was like, nah, I don't need it.
Wow. Yeah.
So I started March 16th, Monday. By that Thursday, Wednesday, they were like, we're going to start working from home Thursday and Friday.
Hmm.
Be in the office Monday through Wednesday. And I was like, okay. That Sunday, my boss texts me and he's like, hey, just don't come in until further notice. And in 2 weeks, they started laying off all the contractors. And my boss told me, you're good. We checked.
Hmm.
You're on the internet team, so you're good. So I escaped a burning building before the building exploded.
Hmm.
And then I made it past the sea of alligators. And it just feels like I kept dodging all these pitfalls
Hmm.
to land working from home as opposed to working in the restaurant industry. So the
Yeah.
timeline was perfect. That's a great story if it happens to you, but if you were on the other side of this where the restaurant shut down and now you don't have anything, that's not so great. So I feel almost guilty that it was like that, but if it's like that for me, I feel like there's hope for anyone.
Hmm.
That anything could happen. There's you can't let this kind of stuff stop you. The pandemic is just like life in general. You can It's just a matter of perspective. You can choose to look at it as the worst thing that's ever happened or the best opportunity that's ever happened.
Hmm.
Because when
Yeah.
everything is shaken up and in the air, it's the best time to form something new, right?
That's very true. Yeah. Yeah, I can relate a little bit to that just because with UX, I honestly don't think if COVID hadn't happened, I wouldn't be studying UX. I wouldn't even know what it is. Because I would still be teaching skiing and then probably going back to work at my summer camp, which was great. But yeah, for that, I'm grateful that there is so much time to be at home. And you can either look at it as, wow, this time sucks. There's too much time where I can't see people, can't hang out with people. Or you can look at it as, this time I can actually make something like you said, or I can just keep learning. And I feel like it's a good time to learn if you're in that position where you don't have to be working, in the restaurant to be paying your
Yes.
bills and stuff. So
Yes.
yeah, it's very complicated for everyone and everyone's situations are kind of just all in flux. So But yeah,
No,
so you
sorry.
never, oh yeah.
I can't help but notice your room and the woodwork around. It's just
Oh
beautiful.
yeah.
Like I would love to be stuck in that house.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
It, no, it's definitely the Colorado mountain style. Most houses in this area have that woodwork, you know, definitely that mountain vibe. So very grateful to be here.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
good spot to be. But yeah, so I guess my next question is what I had asked in the breakout rooms too was just about the side hustle and side projects. And you had mentioned that taking a boot camp is just scratching the surface. So especially if you want to know more, like you're gonna have to put in a little bit more effort. And I also really liked what you said about mentors, someone who's been in the field for 3 days versus someone who's been in the field for 3 months. Like you can still mentor someone. So I thought that was really good advice, and I'm definitely going to include that in the article. But I'm just curious about um, like what advice you have for people who want to pursue a side hustle or be doing something in addition to learning, who might be kind of like afraid to take that first step and just feel lost on starting something.
My advice is very simple. It can be in your mind all the time,
Mm-hmm.
but it will not happen until you take action. What I mean is when we think, we can paralyze ourselves because there's no pen and pad up here. There's no set space where something lives in our
Mm-hmm.
mind. So three things can feel like 30,000 things because of the way they go through our minds and all the things that they connect to. But if I write those things down now, they're on paper, they're
Mm-hmm.
halfway there to manifestation. Now I can look at them for what they are. I've cleared space in my head for something else to come in. And I can start breaking those down into, okay, which one is most important? What can I do today? If I can't do anything about this one, what can I do today to make it towards that?
Mm-hmm.
So I would say for someone that wants to start a side hustle or go beneath the surface, start learning as much as you can, but just do it. You can think,
Mm-hmm.
you can get, there's a trap you can fall into as well. It's the information trap where you're constantly consuming content, but you're never doing anything with it.
Sure.
And that's a really big trap because I found myself doing that with the portfolio. I was looking up everything about portfolio and what to do and what to put in it. And there's endless amounts of stuff out there for that,
So much.
but there's nothing that's going to do it for you. You have to just do it. My teacher told me, just do it, because if you don't start, you won't start. You won't have anything. You're not going to know. So it's fail fast, fail cheap, fail early.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to fail to succeed. You have to find out what doesn't work. Rarely are you going to just get out there and do something and it be perfect.
Yep. Yeah.
That's that
Great advice.
perfectionism is a killer sometimes, and
Mm-hmm.
I still suffer from it.
Mm-hmm.
I want so bad for what I do to be perfect when I put it out there, but
Mm-hmm.
that's just not reality.
Yes. Yeah, I definitely have felt that, especially starting to learn. And sometimes I'm just like so caught up in the information and like trying to attend all of these events and stuff. And I'm like, whoa, I need to take a step back. Like, definitely take some notes and consider everything everyone's saying, but also like I need to focus. Focus. I think it's about focusing too.
Yes.
And also multitasking though. I think it's important with multitasking. Like, for example, I had a project and I was so caught up on making like the prototype perfect. It's never going to be perfect. But then I was losing track of all the other projects I had to do. And I think devoting that much time, I was like losing track of all these other things. So yeah, it's definitely about balance. I think that's really good advice. Let's
Yeah,
see
my
here.
boss told me just yesterday we have a weekly touch base call, and he told
Mhm.
me that you can't live, eat, and breathe UX. You'll burn yourself out. And I've experienced that multiple times in this journey where everything was about UX, and I can see how UX relates to my life, and oh my goodness, that relates to my job, and then it's all one big circle. But where's the play? Where's the decompression? Where's
Mhm.
the
Self-care.
separation? Yeah.
Yeah, very true. One thing I was going to ask, you said you're a musician. So during non-COVID times, do you perform? Like, what instruments do you play and stuff, or do you sing?
I'm reluctant to tell you what it is because usually when I tell people, they're like, "Oh, rap for me." I'm a rapper.
Okay, nice.
So I used to rap about the things that most people rap about, and then there was a major change that happened in my life, and I started rapping about what was in my heart and
Mm-hmm.
the struggles I'd been through and helping people through those struggles and recovery. So it was recovery music. And I did
Okay.
that for a while and it was fun, but imposter syndrome is real and you
Mm-hmm.
can't really pay your bills unless you take that full leap with music, and music's not what it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure that if I just took the leap and went for it and stopped letting the imposter syndrome take over, I'd probably be a great musician and that would be my job. I don't know. Now that you asked me that, now I'm thinking, why am I not doing it? So I make the instrumentals, I write the songs, I can rap. I've tried singing, can't carry a tune. Doesn't mean I won't. I just haven't found that vocal. What is that? I forgot what it's called.
The
My range.
okay,
I haven't
yes, yeah,
found the range that's comfortable for me. I
okay,
think it's a low. I'm not like the
like
star singer
me,
that can hit the highs. Yes.
sure.
Um, and I still actually I'm in my studio, so I still have all the equipment. I have an artist coming over tomorrow. What I do now with music is I produce other people,
Mm-hmm.
and I find that UX has actually helped my music because now it's about creating an experience
Mm-hmm.
more than it is about creating a song. It's what do I want you to experience when you listen to the song.
Yeah, that's really awesome. Yeah, I think that just reminds me. I don't know why it's kind of random, but I forget the name of it. Music as an experience. I went to school in Boston, and there is kind of like a planetarium dome. Do you know what that is? Like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. So I didn't know what it was before I went, but basically they were making music into this virtual reality experience, and I went to Beyonce and Lady Gaga. It's really cool. They're kind of all across the U.S., I think. But basically, you just go into this place and you sit for an hour and you just stare at the ceiling, like the planetarium,
Mm-hmm.
and it becomes this virtual reality musical experience to all of the songs on Beyonce's soundtrack, Lady Gaga. I went to Prince too, and that was really
Oh,
cool. Yeah, I don't know. I think music as an experience is a good way to look at it for sure.
absolutely.
If you ever get the chance during non-COVID times to go to something like that, highly recommend.
Yeah, please send me a link or something. I've never heard of that, but
Yeah, I will.
I mean, from past times, way back in my teens and 20s, it sounds like a virtual acid trip.
Honestly, yeah. There was definitely some people there that had done some stuff. So,
Uh-huh. That's usually the
but
case.
but yeah, it's pretty trippy. I'd say that's the best way to describe it. Yeah, and I guess on that kind of note, I know you shared some of your favorite UX books, so I'd love to hear maybe just your top 3 UX books that you really like.
That's my first one I read.
Okay, I want to read that.
So that one has helped me with the distractions on my own phone and my own life with social media and all the apps that I was in because I knew there was something happening. I just didn't know what it was completely. And
Mm,
to understand the psychology behind that race to the brainstem, where they're trying to connect to the deepest emotion that you have so that you are intrinsically hooked on their product. That's
sure.
evil.
Yeah.
So that was the first one. And then Sprint by Jake Knapp, Change by Design, Tim Brown,
Okay.
Articulating Design Decisions,
Hmm.
Tom Griever. That's another one. That's going to be huge for you coming into UX, articulating design decisions. There is a reason why our work matters so much, like we were just talking about.
Hmm.
It's in everyone's hands at all times. It has the power to make political impact
Hmm.
on the world. You've seen it happen with the previous election and possibly this one.
Yeah.
That's mostly social media now. There's not a bunch of mail-in and commercials, and it's all in our pockets all the time. So that's why the stakeholders have so much of a say in what we do as UX designers. That book teaches us how to articulate our design decisions and why we make the decisions we do, the psychology behind it, the
Hmm.
art, the science, how to bring all that and explain it in a way that makes sense to them, because they have different priorities than we do as executives or creative directors. There's just a different language that everyone speaks, and it's learning to speak that language or learning to have that empathy for not just our users, but whoever interacts with our products or our decisions. That's one of my favorites right now that I'm going through. Um, the lady that I've been working for, Joy Kendall,
Hmm.
she was one of my first personal projects for UX. I helped redesign her app. It's called QuickSit. It's a babysitting app based out of Fort Worth,
Hmm.
but it was going worldwide. And then COVID hit 5 months into her having this business, and it's like, whoa, you know. Um,
Challenging.
yeah, so she survived this whole time.
That's
She
good.
bought me a book called How to Build a $1 billion App, and my nickname now is her $1 billion designer. I kind of like
Hey, it's not a bad nickname.
that, right? Um, so that book is really cool because it takes you through the process of how some of these apps came in, where they were at, and how they got to where they were based on feedback and
Okay.
questions and research. Like, there was a lot that went into there. A few more on my reading list are, or list to read, are The Design of Everyday Things.
Hmm. I started that one. Um, I checked it out from the library, and so I was just listening to it, but I feel like I wasn't in the right mindset to be listening because I was always doing something. So
Right.
I think I really just need to sit down and just have a hard copy of the book. I think there's too much digital stuff. I need to have hard copies of all these books, and that's why I bought
You can't do this with
a
digital.
hundred or 100 things every designer. No, yeah, that's the best thing about reading a book. And so I just bought 100 things every designer should know about people.
That's
So
another one.
yes, I think you had chatted in the chat board that you had read it. Have you read it?
I've not read it. I have a friend that just got it, so that's
Okay.
another one on my list.
Mhm.
Um, how to Make Sense of Any Mess. Abby Covert was one of the first books that I read once I started going to meetups. I met a guy, Adam Polanski. He was like one of the first people I spoke to in UX, and he gave me 3 different books to read and said that depending on which one speaks to me is the one that's um, going to decide what I do as a like which field or which
Which
avenue I
quadrant?
take. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
So there's the architect, the researcher, or the designer.
Hmm.
And so How to Make Sense of Any Mess is the architect. Uh, Don't Make Me Think, I want to say, is the designer. And then The Design of Everyday Things was research.
Yes, research. Hmm.
Okay. So I read the architect one and I haven't read the other ones yet because that one just resonated. I know how to take the big picture and boil it down.
Hmm.
I'm not meant for granular details. Like I'm right now I'm in research in my job, and while I enjoy research,
Hmm.
it's the presenting the data and dealing with the data and putting it all together to present that
Hmm.
just drives me insane.
That's cool. That reading a book really honed in on that for you. That's
Now I
awesome.
do want to read the other two, and so now that you've brought this to my attention that hey, you still haven't read it, it's been a year, I'm gonna have to get on that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I definitely want to spend some time each day just reading about UX, getting off the computer because it's a lot of screen time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Cool. Let's see. I
Do
guess
make sure to take breaks though. Like that's one thing my manager will not stress enough. Walk away.
take a
He's a
break.
big
Yeah.
fan of the Tim Ferriss 4-hour work week, and I'm really grateful for that because he expects a solid 4-hour effort, and I can do whatever with the other 4 hours, as long as when I'm delivering solid results.
Sure.
And I won't say just, 4 hours, but as long as I'm delivering results, it doesn't matter the amount of time, as long as the results are something that came from a good state. Because if I sit there and I make myself stay in front of my screen for 8 hours and I don't get up and take my breaks or get up and stretch or get water, go for a walk, do something to take care of myself, then I'm not going to be able to provide good results. Or there's something I'm trying to say here.
No, that makes, yeah, balance. That sums it up. It's
Yeah.
definitely about balance. And I think working remotely too, I think it's easy. Obviously I'm not working currently, but even just studying, I think it's easy to just be so invested into like one thing on your screen the whole time and fill your schedule with Zoom meetings. And it's like, whoa, how much work did I actually get done that was productive, like that 4-hour chunk of work? So, especially when your commute is like from your room to your counter, and that's like 5 seconds. So,
Yes.
yeah. And that's one thing I was going to ask. Since you started basically remotely, I like to ask people, how do you like working remotely? And would you eventually want to work in person? And I know this is based on personality type as well, but I'm just curious your thoughts.
Okay. So I'm an ambivert with a stronger extrovert side.
Mm-hmm.
So at first it was kind of miserable because I love people. I love
Mm-hmm.
to be around people. People energize me. And it was kind of heartbreaking. No more meetups, no more getting together. So
Mm-hmm.
it was hard at first, but then all the Zoom and GoToMeeting and Google Hangouts, all these virtual get-togethers, it's not the same, but I can see someone in Colorado.
Yes.
And it's not that it didn't exist before. This is the part that blows my mind, is that we act like it's brand new and it's something that just came about. We've had this possibility forever. We
Mm-hmm.
could have been talking to people all over the world. We just weren't forced to, so we didn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I love working remote now, especially since our job has done some sort of survey for I'm a contractor still, but for the
Okay.
employees, they did a survey and they said, hey, if you could work anywhere in the world, would you? Like if you weren't forced to come to the office, would you live anywhere, work abroad? And everyone was like, yes. So now we have people working in Florida, people working from the beach. And I'm planning on going to work by the beach too. That seems like really cool. But I love it because you can be anywhere, and there's a lot of inspiration that comes with working from different places and being able to walk away and just take a breather real quick.
Mm-hmm.
And you get, this sounds bad because I love people and I love the distractions, but you don't get that person walking up to your desk and that 20-minute conversation that can distract you from your work. And then it's like anywhere from 25 to 50 minutes to get back into your groove.
Mm-hmm.
You can produce a lot more, and you can chat if you need to, or hop on a video call, and
Exactly.
you can still work while you're on a video call.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's just a lot more flexibility with working remote. And I
Yeah.
think that it was necessary for, like, Container Store was not one of those places. A lot of places were not ready for and wouldn't get ready for
Mm-hmm.
their people working remote. Like, there was not that trust factor that said, I trust my employees enough to work remote. It
Mm-hmm.
was just one of those, on an absolute, like, if it's absolutely necessary for you to work from home,
Then you
maybe a half day.
Mm-hmm.
And when they realized that we were more productive from home,
And
it's
yeah,
like there's no rush to get back to the office.
for sure. I think change for anything is hard, especially for businesses that have been doing that for so long. And so when I had an internship, my boss would work remotely every single Friday, but that was rare. Like no one in the office did that. He's the only one. And I was like, wow, he's pretty lucky to do that. And now here we are. Every single person can work remotely. And there's definitely challenges. I feel like if you have kids and stuff who are learning remotely, like that comes with it as well. But I mean, working from the beach sounds pretty nice. So,
I like that you said that, the challenges with kids, because from an empathetic perspective on this situation. Not everyone has that great household to come home to, so being remote is probably hell for them right now.
Mhm. Or internet connection that's stable too.
Yeah. Or like some people are in a place where there is no internet connection that's stable just because of where they live.
Mhm.
Like we just got good high speed over here, but we're on the outskirts of town, so it's not where all the wires are already laid.
Mhm.
Um, the there was another thing I was going to say about that. It wasn't important.
It's all good. Awesome. And just one question. Where are you from again?
I am in Keller, Texas, which
Okay.
is between Fort Worth and Dallas.
Okay. Awesome. Great. Well, I'm just gonna look through my questions.
Now, I do have one question for you.
Yeah, go for it.
What led you to start questioning everything, and how has it improved your life since?
um, so the first part is what led me to question everything. I've always been a questioner. Um, I feel like it's not necessarily trust issues, but sometimes I think of it as trust issues. I just always want to know not just like why someone's doing something, but what made them to do that something and how they're feeling about it.
Mm.
Um, so I think I've always been a feeler, and I studied journalism part time in college. So I think that kind of carried over from my childhood. When I was in fifth grade, I started a newspaper, and I would just question literally everything. I would question like my family members about their jobs, and I would question friends, and just always do a bunch of research. And I think doing research only fulfilled my need to be curious to a certain point. Like I really had to not just read something online, I had to reach out to people, and like what we're doing today. Um, and kind of in the beginning of COVID, I had that mindset. I was like, oh, I can't see anyone. I can't really talk to anyone or connect with anyone like I used to. Like with ski instructing, I loved it because I could constantly ask questions to my students. And even if they're like 4 years old or 80 years old, like every single person has something to share that you would never know about them if you didn't ask them like about their interests and their passions. So in the beginning of COVID, I was just like super depressed about all of that and not being able to connect. And then, like you were saying, with being able to talk to anyone, someone in Texas, someone in China, someone in like literally all over the world, I was like, you know what? I can still ask people questions. I can still connect with people. It's just in a different way. And that's why I started my blog, is because I, the best way to learn is by asking people who are currently doing what you're interested in doing, or maybe something you're not even interested in doing, and that sparks an interest in you. So I started the blog because I'm really interested in accessibility and sustainability and UX design. And I was like, you know what? I don't know much about it. And if I just researched it, I could easily come up with like a Wikipedia page or I don't know, just information. But I need to talk to people. So that was kind of like the first part. I feel like I just went on a tangent.
No, I'm
But
loving it. I love to hear why people are curious. I'm curious to know why
yeah,
you're curious.
yeah, I think, well, I just think it makes life more interesting because if I was just living by myself, I would just get so bored because, and also if you surround yourself with the same people who have the same background as you, speak the same language, um, just like are from the same city. And part of the reason I think my mind was open is I had the opportunity to travel a lot when I was younger. So I had that experience to go to different countries, not just different countries, but different states, and be able to talk to people like locals of those communities. And that really, I thank my parents for that, because I think if I hadn't been able to even just leave my hometown, because I think like even if you don't have the money to travel abroad, you can still leave like your hometown and talk to someone that's in like the town over from you.
Yes.
So I think it really, people are more privileged in the fact that they can travel, and I recognize that. But um, that kind of kickstarted me being curious about other people and other people's backgrounds. And then when I returned to my very very same kind of cookie cutter high school. Everyone was very much the same, like me. Um, I was like, man, I can't do this. Like when I go to college, I need to get out of here. I need to go to a more diverse school. Um, and I went to Boston University, and being in Boston, I was able to be at school with so many international students and people from all different states. So when I was studying journalism and asking questions, of people in the community, um, that really helped, just being surrounded by people that were different than me. And I think that boosts curiosity in itself. So yeah, that's why I'm a curious person. But I also feel like some people are just born with that curious drive, I truly believe that. Because some people don't want to know about other people and what they're going through, and maybe that's how they grew up. Maybe that's just they weren't encouraged to do that. Yeah, life's just more, it's just better that way, I think.
I completely agree, and I do have to say that that aspect of being able to travel
Hmm.
does change it, because if you've never left your hometown or your country or your surroundings, and everyone you hang around looks like you or is the same kind of people, or you belong to certain groups, you never learn more than what you know. That
Exactly.
becomes comfortable.
Hmm.
But I grew up American Airlines brat. I don't know if yours was military or uh, airline.
No, I've never, wait, no, I haven't heard, like, I know what that means. You mean your parents were in the military and you moved
So
around a lot?
if you're a military brat, your parents were in the military, you moved around a lot. If you're an airline brat, your parents worked for the airline and you moved with that.
Okay.
I was the airline brat.
Okay. I've never heard that before.
Yeah. It's really common around here, but just because American Airlines headquarters is right around the corner. So you get a lot of that here, that people
Okay.
lived in Germany. I lived in
Sure.
France for my first 6, 7 years of school.
Okay. Nice.
I came back here and it was a mess. You come back from a foreign place where you're the oldest and tallest with the prettiest hair, and you come back here and you're made fun of. Your name is Frenchie. You're the shortest, the youngest, and you're
Culture
weird
shock.
because you speak a different language. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's culture shock for sure.
Yeah. I think that's very interesting.
I,
I don't know if,
Go ahead. Sorry.
oh, I was gonna say, what was the second part to your question? I don't
I was
even think
I was gonna say I feel like you answered it, but the second part was how has this improved your life?
I was in my life. Yeah, I feel like other than it just making life better, and that's very general, but I do think it has made my life significantly better knowing other people who are different than me. Um, I think it's driven what I want to do for a career wise. And I think UX, most people who get into UX, like, we want to help people and we want to make things better for people. And now that I'm learning more about, especially accessibility, I'll talk about accessibility because that's what I'm super passionate about. As an adaptive ski instructor and working with people of all different disabilities and all different ability levels, I think going into UX, I think it's only going to make my life better by during the research phase if I end up doing that, including those people and asking those questions that I was talking about earlier to those people and integrating into my work. And I think having a work or a career that fulfills me, that's like a really high priority, because I just think like carrying over being a curious person in your life and carrying it over into your work, I think that's super important to have that balance. And I think a lot of people, they don't necessarily have that. Like maybe they're super passionate about, um, I don't know, anything really. And if they don't have that in their work, which we all are going to be working a lot of our life, like that's a big part of our lives. So you might as well try your best to integrate um, what you're passionate about. And if that's asking questions and being curious about other people, like that's what I want to do. And I think that in general will make my life better. And I hope other people can find that, integrate stuff that they're passionate about into their career.
Yeah.
And it's hard for some people, who are stuck doing what they're stuck doing and maybe can't find a way out. But hopefully I can help make an impact on those people, by designing experiences that yeah, will make lives better. And there was this person that I talked to who works in accessibility, and she was talking about asking those questions and designing for people who are on the margins. So people that aren't necessarily like, in the like the target demographic, I guess, when you're designing a product, and how ultimately like that will make lives better for everyone, not just for that target audience. If you're including everyone from the beginning and asking questions of people that might not be represented originally. And yeah, that was from this woman named Molly Bloom who works at Adobe. She's an inclusive design researcher. So I thought that was really cool.
I
Yeah.
do have someone, based on what you've told me about the accessibility interest.
Mm-hmm.
Seda Maurer is the accessibility program manager for Sabre here in Texas.
Okay.
She was one of the first people to give up an hour lunch to talk to me about accessibility when I reached out for an interview. And I just thought it was so generous. You gave me your whole lunch to talk about what you do
Yeah, that's so
at
nice.
work. Yeah, and it was just wow, that's awesome. And we've done lunch a couple times since, but she's really good at what she does, and I do want to make that connection for you, so you can
That'd be
interview
awesome.
her as well. Yeah,
Thank
you get a
you.
lot from her.
Yeah, and I think it's cool talking to people who are in different areas of UX too, like program managers versus software developers. I've talked to a couple of them because coding is a whole different thing. So I like just talking to people from all different areas of design to learn more. So yeah, it'd be awesome. Thank you. Well, cool. I guess if you have anything else to add, that was kind of all my questions that I had. If you have any other questions or
I, for question everything, only have one question I like to leave people with, and this is for our audience.
mm-hmm.
What is one question that you think everyone should be asking themselves?
One question everyone should be asking themselves. That's a good question. I feel like that's very Inception like. um, I guess it would have to be two parts.
Okay.
I would say, depending on what you're doing, my question would be, is this helping people? And how is it helping people? And how do I feel? I feel like that's just a question that people should be asking themselves more and checking in with yourself, because
Mm.
you can only be helping other people if you're helping yourself first, and if you believe in yourself, and if you're not taking care of yourself, it's going to be really hard to help other people. So yeah, how do I feel, and how is this helping other people? How is it making them feel? So yeah, it's all about the feelings for me.
Yes, you hit my heart right there. That reminds me of that, and I'll end with this.
Uh-huh.
You're in an airplane, cabin pressure changes, the air masks come down.
Mm-hmm.
You put the mask on your child first, or do you put your mask on? Put it on the child. Most people would say,
Yeah.
put mine on, or I put it on the child. That's what most
Yeah.
people would say.
Yeah.
And then you pass out. Then what? So it's
Yeah.
you got to take care of yourself before you can take care of anyone else. If the child passes out, you can revive them. If you
Yes, that
pass
is,
out, the child can't revive you.
yeah. And that reminds me of lifeguarding too. I mean,
Oh,
I got lifeguard certified last year, and if we're going off of like metaphors and stuff,
yeah.
if someone's struggling in the water, are you gonna immediately swim up to them and help them? They're probably gonna drag you under.
Yeah.
So in order to help that person, and in real life, in order to help like anyone and not be dragged down, maybe that person's struggling, you gotta help yourself and find other people that can help you, or like reach out to them with like using a tool or something.
Mm.
So
Oh, that's good.
yeah, yeah, that's what I would say on that. That's a really good question. Now I'm gonna write that down. So is you have a show? You said, is
Yes,
this
ma'am.
like okay? What is your show?
It's called Question Everything.
Okay.
And I know I'm on your blog now, but you are now on Question Everything as well.
Oh,
You are
nice.
my next episode, if that's okay with you.
Really? Yeah. So I'm just curious. do you cut anything out, or is it just the whole entire conversation?
I mean, I can cut out if you need me to.
Okay.
I So what I've done with a couple of the interviews is we'll cut off and talk about what we did and talk a little off the record.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to talk about anything off the record,
Yeah.
of course, I would cut it off here and tell everyone to have a wonderful day, continue questioning everything, and then we can talk some more when it's not recorded. So.
Okay. Sounds good. That's really cool though. I'm excited.